I remember the exact shade of light that afternoon. A coffee shop. I was drawing, the way I always used to before I forgot how. And then someone bumped my table. My coffee went everywhere. He looked at me, this stranger, like he'd broken something precious. He bought me a new one without asking what I wanted. Somehow, he got it exactly right. I thought, that's just luck. I didn't know yet how much he paid attention. I didn't know yet what that attention would cost me. The weeks after that felt like a film I'd always wanted to live in. He remembered everything. Every small thing I mentioned in passing. My favorite color. The book I said I meant to read, the way I take my tea. Nobody had ever paid that kind of attention to me. I told my friends, I think this one is different. I was right, he was different. I just didn't understand yet in which direction. It started small, it always does. I was getting ready to see my friend. We'd had plans for weeks. He said, "She's not really good for you. You've said it yourself." Had I? I couldn't quite remember. I laughed it off. I told myself he was just being protective. I canceled the plans. That was the first time I chose him over someone I loved. It wouldn't be the last. I didn't notice how quiet my life got. There were fewer calls, fewer dinners, fewer versions of me that existed without him. My phone was always nearby, his hand always near my phone. Just checking the time, he'd say. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. My world kept shrinking, and somehow it felt like it was my choice. That's the part that took me the longest to understand. It looked like love. From the inside, I tried to tell him. I said, I feel lonely, even when you're here. He looked at me like I'd said something cruel. But after everything I do for you, he said, quietly, after everything. And I started apologizing. That's the moment I think about the most now. Not when he raised his voice. He never raised his voice. But that moment when I stopped trusting myself, that was the real beginning of the end. I found an old journal, the kind I used to keep before us.
Who is this woman?
The girl in those pages laughed at things that weren't funny to anyone else. She had plans, she had opinions, she took up space. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time after that. I kept trying to find her. She was still there, just buried, just waiting. He found a message on my phone from my friend.
Don't lie to me now.
She just asked how I was. 4 words. He didn't shout. He never shouted. He stood in the doorway and said my name, just my name. And I felt afraid. Not startled, not nervous. Afraid of the person who told me he loved me every single day. That's when I knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. He was right there beside me, and I had never felt more alone. I lay there in the dark and I thought, what am I so afraid of? Leaving him or never leaving? My phone was on the nightstand. Her name was still there on the screen. I pressed call, my hands were shaking. I didn't care. We met at the same coffee shop where it all began. Strange how places hold things. I told her everything. And when I heard the words out loud, my own words, about my own life, I finally understood what I had been living inside. She held my hands across the table. She didn't say, "One, I told you so." You're poor. She said, "Let's get you home, Gerd." I packed quickly. My hands remembered how even when my mind went blank.
I can't
Sketchbook,
stay.
paints, the journal. Everything that was mine before he decided what that meant. He said my name again from the doorway. I looked at him one last time. I thought, I used to love you. Maybe part of me still does. And I left anyway. Her spare room was small and quiet. I sat on the floor and I did nothing. I didn't draw, I didn't think, I just breathed. It sounds simple, but I hadn't done it in a long time. I put my hand on my chest. My heart beat. Mine. The next morning, I opened my sketchbook. I didn't plan what to draw. My hand just moved. It drew me. Not the version of me that had learned to make herself smaller. Not the version that apologized for taking up space. The real one. The one I'd been looking for in the mirror. She was still there all along. She'd just been waiting for me to come back.